Harry's Wife, part 104.68. Now we know what attracted her. I've explained that Harry's wife's credibility is being repeatedly shredded as more and more people identify that she tells porky pies that her relationship with the truth, not her truth, is a strained and distant one. That more and more people are identifying that she engages in revisions of history, the outright telling of lies, and chicanery, which, of course, as you know from my work, is all done as a consequence of her narcissism. Various high-profile individuals have started to call out this behaviour. She has her repeated detractors, Dan Wooten of GB News, Meghan Kelly, Piers Morgan, of course. But more and more people are speaking out about it, and do so with repeated sarcasm and derision, demonstrating that people really do see her as a figure of ridicule. The good old Australians have been doing it for some time, and of course, Hilary Rose always adds with her own brand of scathing observations and home truths. In her recent article about the last podcrap that we had to endure from Harry's wife, Hilary Rose wrote in the Times, "A new podcast about difficult women? Oh, Harry's wife, who might that be?" Any day now, Harry's wife will realise she hasn't been canonised and started harassing the Pope. One of her guests this week is an astounding and fascinating self-made woman who invested $70 million of her own money trying to find a cure for her daughter's disease. She was given a medal by the Vatican and inducted into the Women's Hall of Fame. It can only be a matter of time before Harry's wife gets her just reward for marrying a royal and saying humanitarian a lot. As my observation demonstrates, the way that Harry's wife seeks, through character trait acquisition, to place herself on a similar level as a guest who is self-made, invested $70 million of her own money to try and find a cure for the disease that was afflicting her daughter, and of course was given a medical medal by the Vatican. Harry's wife believes that she should get a medal from the Vatican. What for? Well, as Hilary Rose points out, well, you married a royal and say humanitarian a lot. Isn't that sufficient? And in the mind of Harry's wife, it is, because she believes that by repeatedly demonstrating that she's kind and empathic, that's sufficient to con the majority of people into believing that she is kind and empathic, although she truly believes that she is. Continuing with the article. This week's episode of the Harry's Wife show is billed as dynamic. Previously, the show has been raw and enlightening, thought-provoking and stirring, candid and illuminating, and, my personal favourite, in-depth and vulnerable. Because nothing says vulnerable like 16 bathrooms and an HRH title you can't use. Again demonstrating the idiocy and hypocrisy of Harry's wife. As ever, we discuss something that resonates with all women who are all oppressed, because men are frightened when we do anything except clean the oven. And please, can we talk about the patriarchy again, Harry's wife? Too much is never enough. We are exploring the origins of the B word, she says, meaning bitch, and its cousin difficult. The word difficult, she tells us, is often wrongly applied to strong-minded women, although no mention of the times when it's applied correctly, presumably because she can't think of any. My new phrase of the week is standing in your knowing, which of course is another bit of word salad from Harry's wife, along with standing in your authority and living in your full self. More word salad nonsense from her. We plough on with all the lovely B words we could use about her or women in general. Beautiful, beguiling, blissful, bedazzling. Harry's wife is keen for us to know that she loves etymology and people with expansive vocabularies, which, of course, is more character trait acquisition but is belied by her repeated inability to use words incorrectly, which Hilary Rose writes, must have been what attracted her to Harry. Thanks to this week's podcast, we know that the young Harry's wife, hungry for new words, loved a TV programme called Jeopardy! When the host died, her friends sent her condolence messages. Read that again if you didn't fully grasp the scale of the narcissism first time around. Again, another prominent journalist identifying Harry's wife's narcissism and, as I explained in parts passing, the magical thinking associated with the belief that people would contact her to say, oh, how awful, the host of Jeopardy has died, even, of course, she has no link to this individual and probably didn't even watch it. Her narcissism has created the idea that she did because she sees herself as a nerdy wordsmith. Continuing with the article. A friend pops up to describe herself as a fellow wildcat with Harry's wife, and Harry's wife says, no, she's more of a mild cat, and we all laugh. The friend says she doesn't care if someone calls her the B word, which is very off-message and insufficiently oppressed, so Harry's wife pounces like a mild cat. Bitch, she points out, is often a euphemism for difficult. We have another shout out to ancient Greece. This time it was because Plato was sexist, or maybe Cicero, but this time it's the goddess Artemis. Maybe she failed to stand in her authority. We're promised an interview with a zoologist, which is exciting. Are we going to talk about zebras, I thought, or Amazonian tree frogs? Is it possible that zebras have no word for difficult, so no female zebra can be labelled as such, and they're much happier and less oppressed by zebra patriarchy? The zoologist talks about the larger notion of difficult women who are threatening the human social order, although I don't recall anyone levelling that particular charge at Harry's wife. I think from memory it was more about whether the paint in Archie's nursery was vegan enough, and who was to blame if it wasn't. We are told that distinctions between masculine and feminine are cultural, not biological, because, of course, they are. Basic biology has nothing to do with anything anymore. As for poor old Harry's wife, womankind in general, demonstrating the way that she believes that she speaks on behalf of everybody, of course, extension of self, the difficult label is used to deflect attention from her awesome qualities, persistence, strength, perseverance. And I am confident that when a courtier wrote a memo accusing Harry's wife of unacceptable behaviour, the sort of behaviour that led some palace employees to call themselves the Sussex Survivors Squad, what he actually meant was, I want to salute her awesomeness, persistence and strength. She is bedazzling. Once again, Hilary Rose underlining the ridiculousness and the delusion of Harry's wife. Sentence of the week goes to whoever said this. If women do it exactly the same way that a man does it, we're met with a much different sense of perception versus reality. Possibly it was the zebra. To recap, the next time my editor says I am being difficult, I will say, no, I am beguiling and you are failing to appreciate my resilience and determination. I will stand in my power and live in my full self. Then I will do exactly what she says. As a woman, Harry's wife says in closing, you come to terms with the fact that not everyone's going to like you. The goal can't be for everyone to like you, but the goal can be for them to respect you. The Sussex Survivors Club were unavailable for comment. And of course, all of this demonstrates the basis on which Hilary Rose holds this out as by the reason why, of course, Harry must have been an attracting factor for her. And the fact that he is such an esteemed wordsmith and she's so interested in the etymology of words demonstrates clearly what attracted her to him, sarcastically put, of course. We all know what attracted Harry's wife to Harry. He was easy to control, control being the fundamental platform on which the narcissist functions. He fountains with fuel. He's got oodles of character traits and residual benefits. Status, titles, access, networks, and, of course, importantly, money, and all part of the facade that she wishes to manage. Those are the subconscious things that she sought from Harry, In terms of the prime aims, she'll have known that she'll have liked him for his status, of course, and the money, but she'll have quoted it as something else. Her narcissism causing her to believe it's because they're kindred spirits, that they loved Africa, that they're bananatarians and so forth. But of course, as Hilary Rose puts forward, evidently, based upon what she says, the main attractor must have been the fact that he's brilliant with words, and so is she. And that's what truly attracted her. Dipping below the line, Al Pacino writes, Hilary continues to put herself through sheer hell, so we don't have to. Thank you. This column has become the best of the week. Obiter dictum. Harry's wife is keen for us to know that she loves etymology and people with expansive vocabularies, which must have been what attracted her to Harry. Brilliant. Rico, the only reason the podcast is worthwhile is we get to read this excellent dissection after each one. Bravo, Hilary, and thank you for your sacrifice. Matthew Lawrence, these reviews of Harry's wife's drivel always brighten up on Tuesday. David Tower, if there was an Olympics for narcissism, I know who would take the gold medal. Anne McCoy, her narcissism and total lack of self-awareness is off the charts. Harry's wife is delusional. Deep Joy, yes, and it's the only gold medal that she will ever qualify for. Blobby, automatic buy into the final every time. Roger Tilbury, I hope you're getting danger money for infesting your brilliant brain with this drivel, Hilary. Collie Walker, thank you. So much better to read than have to listen to the podcast. Meg75, why were none of these sympathetic young friends invited to the wedding? TCK, what friends? Ron H, how the time must fly at their caffeine-free, oat milk, organic, socially responsible coffee mornings. TCK, Harry's wife, difficult. Really, from what I hear, that's the opinion of virtually everyone who interacts with her, in particular those who have the misfortune to work for her. Her family know all about it, for sure. Rebecca Reedy, just when you think this self-appointed wordsmith couldn't get any more ridiculous, Harry's wife proves me wrong. Andrew Pearson, I would pay to be a witness to an argument between her and Harry. The phrase nailing jelly to a wall comes to mind. Alex D. Harry's wife is underselling herself for once. She isn't difficult. She's impossible. LJL, thank you for a good giggle, but sad to think this is someone's reality. Some really do need to get back to the basics rather than indulge in such self-indulgent twaddle. Dastardly. Imagine complaining about patriarchy, then marrying a prince, the embody of patriarchy. MKA Martin, the hypocrisy is strong with nutmeg. Fountainhead, no, I'd call her a narcissistic sociopath, which is what the palace staff labelled her. Deep Joy, I think Harry's wife would take that as a compliment, as it sounds good, and she probably hasn't the faintest idea as to what it means. Snowy Woods, she'll probably take that as her next archetype and claim that when a woman is a narcissistic sociopath, it really means she's a wonderful self-knowing woman of high self-esteem who lets nothing and no one stand in her way. She'll invite Donald Trump, Putin, Imelda Marcos and King Jong-un onto the show to agree and back her up, which is a rather humorous and suitable point at which to end this. Once again demonstrating in the comments section there's no support for her whatsoever, and it is a combination of people revelling in the piss-taking that's gone on with regard to her being attracted to Harry on the basis of words, and of course pointing out again and again and again her self-indulgent, self-obsessed lack of insight and, of course, her narcissism. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.